There are moments in women's basketball where the drama is so blatant, so loud, so in your face that even the most casual fan stops and says, wait, are they really trying to pull this off? And today, yeah, this is one of those moments, because somehow, some way, just when Caitlin Clark finally steps back into the Team USA orbit after months of politics, jealousy, media meltdowns, and the most embarrassing Olympic roster snub in modern sports.
Caitlin Clark, but in this case, it's Caitlin Clark adjacent, and I'm talking about Paige Bueckers. Geno Auriemma has come out and made some comments about Team USA basketball. We know this week we learned that Caitlin Clark would be at the training camp for USA Basketball. Paige Bueckers is also on this team. Angel Reese is also on this team. Now, in case you guys don't know this, Auriemma was a coach for USA Basketball.
Suddenly, another face of the future magically emerges. And guess who's pushing it? Guess who's standing on the mountaintop yelling it to the world? Guess who's shaping the narrative before the camp even begins? Geno freaking Auriemma, the UConn godfather himself, the architect behind decades of USA basketball influence, the coach with a pipeline so deep into Team USA operations that half the boardroom probably still carries Husky blue in their bloodstream. And now Geno wants you to believe that Paige Bueckers, not Caitlin Clark, is the heir to Sue Bird.
See, I knew y'all was on some funny style, funny business. I knew this Team USA thing was gonna be on some funny style stuff. I already knew. It's like every time Caitlin Clark get involved with any of these people, and it's like they follow her around. It's like, bro, we can't escape them. We can't escape them. We got Geno Auriemma, the whole UConn clan. I mean, it's too much. Stephanie White's done got involved with the coaching.
The next great floor general, the next voice of Team USA, the next chosen one. Yeah, okay, sure, right. The timing isn't just suspicious, it's surgical. Right as Caitlin returns, right as the spotlight shifts, right as the attention, the ratings, the ticket sales, the global hype, the viral moments all point toward one player. Suddenly the narrative changes. Suddenly the conversation becomes, is Paige the successor? Is Paige the future? Is Paige the new face of Team USA?
And in my opinion, I'm starting to wonder, is this thing rigged before it even gets started? Because, you know, I talk to you guys all the time on this channel about agenda surrounding women's basketball. And if you check the right boxes, blah, 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 you get elevated. By the way, Stephanie White's part of that agenda too. It just so happens her and Paige Bueckers checks some of the same boxes. Just keep that in mind. And White's one of the coaches.
Interesting, convenient, predictable. And if you think this is an accident, if you think this is just harmless commentary, if you think Geno, with decades of control over USA basketball, just casually said this out of nowhere, her Hoops family, buckle up, because we're about to pull back the curtain on one of the most shameless agendas the sport has ever seen. And yes, it absolutely affects Caitlin Clark. Smash like, hit subscribe, and get comfortable.
The head coach has been named by Sue Bird, and the head coach is a coach at Duke, and she lost to a team that only had 5 players during the whole second half because 6 of the players got ejected. We can't escape these people. We got Carol Lawson. It's just too much. Now we have Team USA plans to push Paige Bueckers as the face of USA basketball over Caitlin Clark. Are you freaking kidding me?
Before we break down Geno's comments, before we expose why they matter and why they're being said right now, you need the full picture. Because this isn't some isolated moment. This isn't a random quote floating in the wind. This is part of a long-running pattern, one that fans of her hoops have been watching unfold for years. Let's rewind. For more than 2 decades, Team USA has been a UConn fortress, a dynasty inside a dynasty, a political machine wrapped in blue and white.
UConn Husky women's basketball coach Geno Auriemma has paid close attention to Dallas Wings guard Paige Bueckers' WNBA career and has been supportive of her career thus far. Now that, you know, Bueckers is one of his ladies, right? We know that. Oh boy, here we go. Bueckers accepted an invite to Team USA's camp in December. Auriemma was recently asked to comment on her way too early success so far.
Think about it. Sue Bird, UConn legend. Diana Taurasi, UConn legend. Stewie, UConn legend. Swin Cash, Tina Charles, Rebecca Lobo, UConn royalty. Even people behind the curtain, like Jennifer Rosati, sat on the Olympic Selection Committee, the same committee that left Caitlin Clark off the 2024 roster. And who coached many of these women? Who shaped the pipeline? Who built the UConn to Team USA express lane that nobody else could access? Geno Auriemma. And now, after decades of influence, after years of elevating his own players into USA basketball's bloodstream, suddenly we're supposed to pretend it's a coincidence that Paige Bueckers, a UConn star, is the one he publicly pushes as Sue Bird's successor. No, come on, be serious. Meanwhile, where was this energy for Caitlin Clark? Where was this praise? Where was this "she's ready, she's the future" rhetoric when Caitlin was lighting up college basketball with video game numbers? When she was carrying Iowa to national attention and breaking every attendance and viewership record in the sport? Oh, right. Instead, she was dismissed, nitpicked, and ultimately left off the Olympic roster because veterans deserved their moment. Because chemistry. Because it wasn't her time. Funny how time only seems to work for UConn players. And here's where the context gets even crazier. Paige Bueckers had the third lowest attendance numbers in the entire WNBA last season. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark sold out arenas across the country even as a rookie. So ask yourself, if Team USA actually wants to grow the game, if they want global interest, if they want ratings, if they want momentum, why on earth would Paige, not Caitlin, be the one pushed as the future? Exactly. You already know the answer. Now let's break this thing down piece by piece, because when you examine the timing, the tone, and the strategic messaging behind Geno Auriemma's comments, it becomes painfully clear what's actually happening. First, the timing. Geno didn't say this in July. He didn't say it when Paige was drafted. He didn't say it any time during the WNBA season. He waited until right after Caitlin Clark was finally invited to Team USA camp. The same Caitlin Clark the committee humiliated months earlier by leaving her off the Olympic team, despite being the most impactful rookie women's basketball has ever seen. As soon as Caitlin steps back into the room, boom, here comes Geno shaping the narrative. Paige will be fine. Paige has everything she needs. Paige might be Sue Bird's successor. That's not commentary, that's positioning. Second, the language. Geno doesn't speak casually. He doesn't ramble. When he endorses someone, it's calculated. He says Paige has all the things she needs. He says she has the self-awareness for national team roles. He says she's uniquely suited for this level. This isn't just praise, it's endorsement language. It's the exact phrasing coaches use when they want decision-makers to move in a certain direction. Third, the target. Notice what Geno didn't say. He didn't mention Caitlin Clark by name. He didn't acknowledge her historic rookie year. He didn't talk about her impact, her leadership, or her readiness. He left her out completely. Because if he acknowledges Caitlin, he legitimizes her claim to the position he's clearly grooming Paige for. Fourth, the tap-in pathway. USA basketball's power structure is already heavy with UConn DNA. Sue Bird, now overseeing Team USA operations. Jennifer Rosati, key selection committee figure. Former UConn players dominating the system. Geno's historical influence stretching across decades. When a system already leans in one direction, all it takes is one voice, Geno's, to tilt the conversation even further. And finally, the outcome they want. A UConn to USA continuity line. Sue Bird, Paige Bueckers. It's a perfect story. It's a perfect narrative. It's a perfect political move. Except for one tiny, enormous problem. Caitlin Clark exists. And she shatters the plan just by walking into the gym. Everything starts to get messy once you realize how deep these connections run. Once you see how many hands are in this pot, once you see how many people with UConn ties just happen to be in the exact positions that shape Team USA's future, the picture becomes way too clear to ignore. It feels like every hallway Caitlin Clark walks down in the Team USA ecosystem leads her straight into another cluster of people tied to Geno, tied to UConn, or tied to the same old political machine that's been running women's basketball for decades. This isn't paranoia, it's a pattern. A predictable, exhausting pattern fans have watched play out again and again. And here's where things go from suspicious to downright absurd. They're pushing a narrative that doesn't even make basketball sense. Paige Bueckers is a phenomenal player. Nobody disputes that. Skilled, polished, efficient. But if you're talking about someone who should be the primary leader, the engine, the next great point guard, the one who controls pace, space, decision-making, shot creation, and offensive flow, how on earth do you look past Caitlin Clark? She's the one redefining the position. She's the one breaking viewership records. She's the one selling out arenas. She's the one who transformed the WNBA's entire financial trajectory in a single season. She's the one who already plays with a level of court command that even legends didn't have at her age. But instead of embracing the momentum she brings, instead of recognizing what every metric, every trend, every fan, and every global headline already knows, the people in charge want to steer the spotlight somewhere else. And the reasons have nothing to do with basketball. They have everything to do with familiarity, comfort, politics, control. Because Caitlin Clark is not part of the old guard. She didn't come through the UConn system. She didn't get molded by Geno. She didn't play under the shadows of Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird. She wasn't raised in the same orbit that has controlled USA basketball for years. She's independent. She's disruptive. She threatens the hierarchy simply by existing. So instead of adapting to the new era, the establishment is trying to recreate the old one. They want someone who fits the mold they're comfortable with, even if the entire world sees that the mold is outdated. That's why Paige is being positioned as the successor. Not because she's the best choice, but because she's the safest choice for a system that fears change. The deeper you go into this situation, the more you realize this isn't just about who's the better player. It's about who fits the blueprint the power structure already decided on. Paige Bueckers didn't ask for this pressure, and she's not the villain here. But she is being used as the convenient vessel for a storyline that Team USA leadership wants to resurrect. The continuation of the UConn lineage. Paige was the golden child of women's basketball long before she entered the WNBA. She had the hype machine behind her, the sponsorships before NIL was even a conversation, the media attention, the Gatorade National Player of the Year glow. And then injuries hit. Seasons derailed. The spotlight drifted elsewhere. Caitlin Clark surged to the front of the sport with a gravitational pull that nobody in power could control. Paige enters the league to a quieter reception. A respectable rookie year, flashes of brilliance, but not the cultural earthquake Caitlin triggered. Meanwhile, Caitlin had people lining up at arenas hours early, cities treating her arrival like a championship parade, WNBA merchandise selling out for the first time in history, networks begging for more fever games, opponents adjusting entire defensive schemes specifically for her. That's generational impact, instantaneous and undeniable. So why is Team USA pretending there's even a debate? Because Paige represents predictability. She represents the system they already built, the relationships already established, the comfort of familiarity. She's the player they know how to mold. Caitlin is the player they fear they can't control. You can feel that tension in how media members talk about her, the nitpicking, the tone policing, the pearl clutching every time she shows emotion, the desperate attempts to rewrite her impact, minimize her numbers, diminish her popularity. None of that happens by accident. It happens when institutions feel threatened. And that's why Geno's comments hit differently. He knows exactly what he's doing when he floats the idea of Paige as the next Sue Bird. It plants a seed. It shapes perception. It nudges selectors. It protects the UConn lineage by establishing Paige as the preferred successor before the camp even begins. Meanwhile, Caitlin must walk into a room where the narrative has already been written without her. A room where the old guard is clinging to control. A room where her presence shifts the balance of power. And they can feel it. This isn't basketball strategy, it's institutional self-preservation. What makes this whole situation even more explosive is the ripple effect it creates across the entire WNBA and women's basketball landscape. This isn't just about Paige, Caitlin, or Geno. It's about how the sport evolves, or refuses to evolve, at a moment when it's finally breaking into mainstream culture in a way nobody could have predicted 5 years ago. Caitlin Clark didn't just boost the WNBA, she flipped the system upside down. She dragged women's basketball into national conversations, late-night talk shows, primetime highlight reels, sponsorship booms, record-breaking TV audiences, and economic growth that executives desperately claim they've wanted for decades. She cracked the ceiling in every measurable category, and she did it in one season. So when the biggest institution in the sport, Team USA, acts like her presence is optional, it sends a message. A chilling message. It tells the new fans, the millions who showed up because of her, that the sport isn't ready to welcome the very player who made those fans care in the first place. It tells younger athletes that politics matter more than production. It tells the world that women's basketball might not be as eager to modernize as it pretends to be. Meanwhile, pushing Paige Bueckers into a spotlight she didn't ask for creates its own complications. Because if Team USA tries to manufacture a face of the program instead of letting the face emerge organically from performance and popularity, it fractures the fan base. It splits the audience into factions. It builds resentment where none needs to exist. Paige and Caitlin could coexist, complement each other, elevate each other. Instead, the establishment is forcing a rivalry narrative that only benefits the people trying to maintain control of the old guard. The WNBA is at a crossroads. Does it cling to the hierarchies and favoritism that have defined the past? Or does it embrace the energy, visibility, and massive global audience Caitlin Clark has brought? You cannot grow the game by sidelining the one player who changed its trajectory. You cannot build a future by clinging to the comfort of the past. And yet, here we are, with Team USA creating tension where unity should be the priority, trying to steer the future of the sport in a direction the fans never asked for. The broader impact is simple. If they mishandle this moment, they risk alienating the very audience that could take women's basketball to unprecedented heights. And the fans won't blame Paige. They won't blame Caitlin. They'll blame the system that can't get out of its own way. At the end of the day, there's one truth that everybody watching women's basketball can feel, whether they admit it out loud or not. The sport is changing faster than the people in charge can keep up with. There is a tidal wave of new energy, new fans, new money, new visibility, and Caitlin Clark is at the center of that movement. Not because someone chose her, not because a committee groomed her, not because a legacy program built her platform. She earned that position through production, through talent, through impact, and through the undeniable reality that the entire world tunes in when she steps on the court. But instead of recognizing that, instead of embracing the moment, instead of letting the natural future of the sport unfold, the old guard is scrambling to hold on to their influence. They're trying to engineer a storyline that fits the blueprint they created decades ago. A storyline centered around connections, familiarity, and control. And that's why the push for Paige Bueckers as the successor feels so forced. It's not about Paige, it's about maintaining the system. The truth is, Paige Bueckers is an incredible talent, a future superstar, and someone who absolutely deserves a place in Team USA's plans. But she shouldn't be shoved into a manufactured legacy role just because she fits into a pipeline that Caitlin never belonged to. She shouldn't be positioned as the predetermined heir in a sport that is evolving beyond predetermined anything. And Caitlin Clark shouldn't have to fight through layers of politics, old loyalties, and institutional bias just to get a fair shot. Especially when her numbers, influence, and global reach dwarf anything women's basketball has seen in years. She shouldn't have to prove herself to a committee that already benefited from everything she brought to the table, while simultaneously pretending none of that mattered. If Team USA wants to be the standard, then they need to act like it. They need to choose the best players. They need to reflect the direction fans are moving in, not the direction insiders wish they were still going. Because the world is watching. The fans are watching. The next generation is watching. And they see exactly what's happening. This moment, right now, is the fork in the road. Team USA can grow with the sport, or they can get left behind by it. They can embrace the new era, or they can cling to the old one. But what they can't do is expect fans to stay silent while favoritism overshadows fairness. Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the face of anything. She became it. Paige Bueckers didn't ask to be the symbol of a system. She's being placed there. And the only people who can decide how this story ends are the ones willing to stand up and call out what's happening in real time. So if you're rocking with her hoops, if you love the game, if you want the politics gone and the talent elevated, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Because we're going to keep exposing the agendas, breaking down the narratives, and telling the truth the way it needs to be told. The new era is here, and no system, no matter how powerful, can stop it.